Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today we are discussing a modern sci-fi classic, book that is beloved by many and was recently turned into a movie, released on Netflix in the UK, but cinemas around the world. That book is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, which is the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy, or some people are also calling this the Area X trilogy. But yeah, Jeff Vandermeer calls it the Southern Reach trilogy. It says so on here. So this is going to be a non-spoiler review. So I'm not going to tell you about kind of big plot twists or changes or things that happen during the novel. However, it is only a pretty short novel. It's about 190 pages, which is great for me. I love a short sci-fi. So yeah, very short book compared to the stuff that I normally read. The current book I'm reading is 900 pages and the font is a lot smaller. But this one is a really interesting book. So I tried to read this when the movie came out. So when the movie came out, one of my friends is a huge fan of the book and was like, the movie is good, but it's missing something from the book. So I was like, right, that's a great sign for me to read the book. But we're now on the other end of things where it's been 5 years since I've seen the movie, because the movie came out in 2018, I think. And now I've read the book and I can't remember what happened in the movie. So I will be doing a video comparing the two, comparing, contrasting, and that one will be full spoiler as well. So that one will be a full spoiler kind of discussion for Annihilation and for the movie Annihilation. This would probably take you like 4 or 5 hours to read. So if you are interested in taking part in that discussion or kind of watching along with the knowledge, you could probably do everything that I have done to get to that point in the video by like, 6 or 7 hours across a week. So let's talk about this actual book. So this book is starring, or from the point of view of, a character who we only know as the biologist. She is part of a team of women who are a psychologist, a biologist, which is the lead, the POV even, a anthropologist and a surveyor. The surveyor has a military background. The psychologist has implanted them, the rest of the team, with hypnotic suggestions to help them traverse Area X, which is a part of America in Florida that is basically like a zone of where things are a bit weird. And this zone is down in Florida, and there's a kind of as an agency or something, not really too clear whether it's the government or not, called the Southern Reach, who are basically tasked with looking after, investigating, exploring Area X. So, did I mention there's also a linguist on the team? The linguist doesn't decide at the last minute to cross over. They stay home. Stay on the other side of the Area X barrier. So the essential story of this is that these 4 women go into Area X, and we kind of treated to the observations of the biologist, who is our POV character. And then when things start to go south in this kind of weird sci-fi zone, as it were, we then follow the point of view of the biologist as kind of she is changed by the environment which she's in. And so are the other members of the team. The first thing I want to say is that I did actually really like this book. I did not love it in the same way that other people I know who've read it have loved it. So I got the idea to read this from Murphy Napier, and also my friend Pat, who had read it. and I was looking for a sci-fi book to read this month, and I wanted something that was a little bit shorter, and I found this one and was like, wow, this is pretty short. It's under 200 pages. But this actually took me a while to read, and it took me a while to read because it's very dense, and it has a thing which is my own personal pet peeve, which I've talked to you guys about a few times, but it's long chapters. So the chapters in this book are very long. One of them is, the first chapter is like 30 pages, and I was like, oh crikey, 30 pages, that's a lot. But then the second chapter is like 50 pages. So there's only like 6 chapters in this entire 200-page book, which was a bit disappointing. Disappointing might be the wrong term, actually. Yeah, no, disappointing. Especially because the chapters are split into scenes. What I was ending up doing is when I read, I have like a thing about stopping at the end of a chapter. I get really I find it hard to get back into a chapter. So if I don't stop at the end of a chapter, I often will restart the chapter when I get back to the book. With this book, I just couldn't do that because the chapters were so long. So I was ending up a lot of the time reading for longer than I had originally planned to finish a chapter, or pausing in the middle of a chapter and going like, well, I'm out of the... And when coming back to it, when I come back to a chapter, the reason why I don't like leaving chapters is because I don't like to leave the headspace of that point of view, of that character, of how the writer has chosen to write that. And there's obviously a thematic reason why they haven't separated it into multiple chapters and they've just gone one big chapter. So I do like to read a full chapter at a time. And what was ending up with this one was that I was ending up reading too long, or coming back in the middle of a chapter and being like, right, now I have to try and get my mind back into where I was. And that is something that, for many a book, could kill the book completely for me and make me DNF it. This book was so good that I ended up giving it 4 stars. And despite the fact that I dislike the chapter length, which is a very much me problem, I don't know many people who are so anti long chapters. It's not a widely held problem, but you will probably know if you yourself are that kind of person. The other thing that I would say is this was not an issue for me at all, but I know that there are people out there, like, for example, my wife is very much like this. She does not like the whole thing to be kind of around a mystery, which this is very much like what is going on in Area X is the mystery, and not to have that solution at the end. So this book is very much not a solved mystery, this book is not wrapped off in a tight little bow. There are 2 sequels, but I kind of feel like Jeff Vandermeer probably, the kind of story this is, it doesn't feel like it needs to be explained. But if you're the kind of person who's like, they've said, what's going on with this place? I need to know what's going on with this place by the end of the book, then this one might not be for you. But for me, who, I'm a big fan of movies like Zodiac, where we didn't, you watch that whole movie and you don't find out who the Zodiac killer is. And that's very much in the spirit of this, the whole book is like, what is going on with Area X? And incredibly mild spoilers, you do not find out what is going on with Area X. You don't find out what's caused it. You do have a lot of fantastic moments in the story. There's some incredible reveals. There's some really good reveals, not only in what's happening in Area X, but there's a great backstory reveal as well that I really enjoyed. There is some really good intrigue, and the dynamic between the women on the expedition is great. I mean, big props to this book for having basically an all-female cast as well. That's not something that's particularly common in sci-fi, so if that's the sort of thing you're looking for, I would definitely recommend that as well. I actually recommended this to a friend of mine who isn't a big sci-fi fantasy reader, but I was like, this is the kind of sci-fi I think you will really like. So she's going to read this one as well. So who should read Annihilation? If you have watched the movie and thought this movie was pretty good, I would say read this book, because they do have a similar vibe. The movie, from memory, has a little bit more action and is a little bit more like scary horror-y, whereas this book is more weird. So there's a lot of like very weird stuff happening, but there's not, I would say, yeah, there's not like a very much like this is happening and it's very, there's no scary, there's no horror. And I kind of was expecting horror when I went in, so, which is interesting, because I was like, oh, actually, am I disappointed there was no horror? Not really, because the weirdness really made up for it. But yeah, I think there's not too much more to say about this one without discussing spoilers, because, like I said, it is a very short book, and so I'm not going to keep you guys here for 20 minutes of me talking around this book, when honestly the best solution for you is just to read it. It's like 4 hours of reading time, and a genuinely fantastic read. It is very dense, especially with those long chapters, but I think that the majority of people who love sci-fi and fantasy will love this book. So, have you read Annihilation? What did you think about it? Were you spurred on by Murphy Napier's review to read the book as well? I will definitely be reading the 2 follow-ups. There is a 4th sequel actually coming out this year, so I will definitely be reading that one as well. Well, I can't say definitely, because the other 2 in the trilogy might be rubbish, but from reviews and from chatter I've seen around, I actually think I might enjoy the 2 sequels maybe even a little bit more. We'll see about how long the chapters are though. Anyway, if you've read this book and you liked it or disliked it, please let me know. I will, as I said, be doing a more of a spoiler discussion for this book and for the movie adaptation. I do have to watch the movie again, because, like I said, my memory of it isn't super clear. But I'll be watching that again sometime this week, and I'll be putting that video up either this week or next week, depending on what comes out in the schedule. My schedule, not the any other schedule. And thanks again so much for watching today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give it a like if you liked it, and please do subscribe to the channel. Every little subscription helps. We hit 600 subscribers last week, which is really fucking cool. Pardon my French. And I'd love to see that hit 700 before the end of June. I think we can do it. All right. Speak to you guys soon. Bye.